New entrepreneurs making that first $1,000 can be tough. Listen in as the two business guys mastermind on how to get that first K and beyond. Enjoy. This business podcast, the two business guys mastermind, uncovers for you secrets and share tips and tricks to entrepreneurship as they mastermind on how to have startup, operational, and overall business success so that you can go on to get better results. Enjoy. All right, hey guys, welcome back. The two business guys are back together. We're going to be masterminding for you and with you today. Now, on today's show, this is a special one because we're going to be talking about how that new entrepreneur can get to that first $1,000, right? And even if it's your second or third $1,000, so we want to get you to that pathway to profits, right? And we may even start. I think, Rob, can we offer maybe a checklist at the end? We'll put a link in our description field if you're seeing this on YouTube for that checklist, right? But the pathway to profits, how are you going to get there? We want to talk about that. We thought it would be exciting to get you to that $1,000. These brand new entrepreneurs, get you there, get you $1,000. We'll talk a little bit about profit first, how you're going to peel a little bit off so you can stay in love with your business. But, let's jump into it a little bit. Rob, how are you doing? Did you have a good weekend, man? Did you make some money? Did you profit?
I'm doing well. And yes, to all of those questions, that's one of the beautiful things about it. It feels so good when you've created something that people like and you get checks that pop up. And especially as an entrepreneur, and you know this, Randy, when you start bringing in multiple streams of income, so you're getting paid different ways for different things, and you can't even remember what you did to get that money, but it's still coming in. Those are always beautiful feelings. And I think that I wanted to start today because a lot of this is about mindset, right? Like yes, why are we talking about we want to get you to $1,000? The main reason is because it changes your perception of who you are, right? There's a whole bunch of people that got hustles. There's a whole bunch of people that get, $5, $10 here, that cut hair for, $25, all those different types of things. But there's a difference when you can make $1,000 doing whatever it is that you're doing. It changes something in the brain. I don't know. I can't explain it, but I know that every time I have started a business and made $1,000, it changed the way that things felt. It changed how I saw myself. And there was a quote, Steve Harvey on his show, he talked about this. He was like, here's the way you become a millionaire. You find something that people will pay you $10 for, and you do it 10 times. Then, now that you've made $100, you figure out something that people will pay you $100 for, and you do it 10 times. Now that you've made $1,000, you take that thing that somebody will pay you, you find something that somebody will pay you $1,000 for, because you can make $1,000. So now you find something that somebody will pay you $1,000 for, and you do that 10 times.
That's good stuff, Rob.
Right?
Let me jump in, because that is, now guys, you're listening. We didn't even get together and do the notes together because what we want to do is bring you a fresh experience. But that's the math that I literally have. I'm not playing, guys. Look at this. You think I'm lying? I'm not. It is the math. And then I put /time because, Rob, amongst some of the other things he does, he's a time guru, I like to say. So I got 10 at 100 people.
Yep.
100 at 10 people, and then 1,000 at 1. But it speaks just to what Rob said right there. The exponentiation. Okay, let's just stop with the big words. But it is the graduation of the thinking. And then what we're going to also be talking about when we get you into the pathway to profits is we'll start talking to you about, if you want to do it at 10, just know the effort is going to be the same.
Yes.
Get this, the time part. The effort is going to be the same as if you did the 1,000 to 1. But there's some practice in what you're going to be doing when you get that first 1,000. And that's, I think, when Rob opened up, that's what he was talking about. It also is the validation idea of the idea.
Yes. Proof of concept.
In your book, Rob, you said something pretty key, and I wrote some notes here. It's right there on page 26 in your book, Thriving in Chaos, that particular one. because Rob's got a lot of books out there. So, and I do
Trying
too,
to be like you, bro.
But in page 26, you talked about the goal, smart goals, and then you said smarter goals. Right? That ER part in there. So when we are suggesting here's how to get to your $1,000, you talk about mindset. You set this SMART goals. Okay, we've heard that before, right? You said the smarter goals, and I like to talk about not just the goals, but the actions.
Exactly.
Right. Let's get into that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the big things about that is it's so important that people realize the reality of the journey versus the fantasy of the journey, right? So often we think that people that are making $1,000, $2,000, $10,000 a month are, they're more intelligent than us. They've got more connections than us. They've got more opportunities than us. They got all these other types of things. And nothing could be further from the truth. The reality is there's a certain paradigm that's different. There's a certain shift that happens in the mind. And part of that is that you have to build. James Clear talks about this in Atomic Habits, right? It's not about trying to create these big habits and these big life changes in the blink of an eye. What you do is you habit stack. You do little bits over time. And because you do little bits over time, then that makes it easier and easier to do bigger and bigger bits as time goes on. So when we're talking about in the concept of starting a business and, making your first 1,000 as an entrepreneur, you talked about the confidence quotient, right? Like the idea that once you get this proof of concept, once you know that people are willing to buy what it is that you are selling in the marketplace, it changes how you go into conversations with people about buying it. Once you know that what you do actually serves people, actually helps people, not I created this thing and I think that it's really awesome. Right? That's in our heads. But when you've actually put it into the market and people have said, oh my God, this is amazing. This does this, and this for me. Now you have a different mindset when you go to other people. And that's why starting it with something that you know you can do is so important. Making sales on stuff that you know you can sell is so important because it gives you the confidence that you can make that type of money with what you know already, that you don't have to come up with the $1 million idea, right? You hear this all the time. I'm sure you do, Randy, on all the different CEOs and podcasts you listen to. There are a ton of $1 million and $1 billion ideas.
Correct.
The issue is not the idea. The issue is the execution, right? This gets back to what you were saying about doing. So talk to me a little bit about, because I know you've been coaching entrepreneurs in the game. You've been doing this. Talk about the entrepreneurs that you have seen and what has been the difference between the ones that go on to success and the ones that just have good ideas.
Got one right now, and if you hear this, I might be talking about you, but I do it in love. I really do. I do it in love. Got a brilliant idea, great idea. So every time, he'll send me a picture of another place that he's had it recreated and he wants to put it on here. And I says, instead of doing all that, see if you can get just 10 people to buy the idea. Now, here's the key. And it drives me nuts sometimes because I'm saying, okay, all of that is, the rest is smoke and the rest is mirrors. Tell me, from this idea, can we spin up? And I even offered to do it for him for free, right? I said, listen, let's spin up a landing page, place the product on the landing page, just a little bit about it, not too much, right? He's got patents and the whole thing, so he's got some protection. And I says, let's see if we can excite people to pre-purchase. Now think about this for a minute, right? So when we start telling you guys about the pathway to profits, whether it's your first or your, hundred thousandths, right? The pathway, here it is the little steps that you can take to get people interested. And like Rob had mentioned earlier, long before you even have the idea all the way done, we can get people excited get people interested and say, hey, listen, I've got this product. Hey, take a look at it. Multifunctional, does a lot of things. Get them excited about it. What we're going to do for you because you're brand new, or it's our, it's our brand new thing. We want you to just kind of like, check it out, wear it a little bit. We'll give it to you for half off. Mm-hmm. See if you can get someone to buy that. And like I told this entrepreneur, I says, listen, if you can get 10 people to buy it, prepay, give them a really good price, then they will literally, if they like it and they dig it and all that kind of stuff, you can get the reviews of your product that you've given them to them exclusively for them, or the first 100, just saying, right? Exclusively for you.
Yeah.
And then you get them to talk a little bit about that. Now what you can do, you have the validation of the idea. You could take that validation and all the things people are saying, create some small ads from the money that you've gotten. You create some small ads to the same landing page, do it again, right? And then when you see that the demand goes up, then you can bring that, you can really take that, that landing page down, improve it, and then really offer the rest of the product. So that becomes a step. I want you guys to hear this step, this pathway, right? Rob and I are kind of building it out for you. Now, again, we're going to probably leave a link to a checklist or something like that, that we will go over these same things. If you can do something as simple as that, you validate the idea, you get money to run the ads, and then what happens next is what Rob was talking about, how you can now go, hey, wait a minute. Is there a way that I can maybe raise the price if it's super popular? Could I make it custom, exclusive, the red velvet rope, whatever it is? What can I do now to get more money for it? And then you keep testing until the market says stop.
Exactly. And that's the whole Steve Harvey quote, right? The whole thing is the first sales are to convince you that it'll sell. Then you figure out, okay, I know it'll sell here. How do I sell it at the next price point, right? One of my products, I remember I started this thing off, my whole goal, because I've done, you know the deal. We put out a whole bunch of different things. I put out a course and I knew that the course was going to be amazing. I knew that I was putting a lot into it. I had been building this, the third iteration over 3 years. I knew it was going to be amazing. But here's what I did to start off. I knew that eventually the course was going to have a 4-figure sales price point. But I wanted to make sure that I had testimonials, that I had people that had gone through it. So my first goal with my team was to sell 30 slots in this course at $100 a piece. Now, everybody that was getting the course was getting way more than $100 worth of value. But what I was getting in return was to get all the kinks worked out, was to get all of the testimonials, was to get, there was a lot of other things. Plus, I was getting proof of concept that told me that I wanted to build out the rest of this course. So what I did is I built the first 3 weeks. It was a 12-week course. I built the first 3 weeks. I sold 30. Actually, we sold 34 slots before I built any more of the course. But then once I had sold the first 34 slots, now I've got a cohort of people that are going through, and I'm building the rest of the course. As they're going through, they're commenting, they're giving me feedback. I added different things to the course that I hadn't thought about adding before I had the people. But more importantly than any of that, it gave me the confidence that this was actually doing what I thought it was going to do. And this is where I talk to people so often, and I tell them, done is better than perfect.
Amen.
So many entrepreneurs get stuck in that space.
Preaching to the choir,
right? So many entrepreneurs get stuck in that space where they're over analyzing. They've got analysis paralysis. They're not putting anything out to the market because they're trying to make it perfect. Newsflash: you don't know what is necessary to make it perfect because you're not making it for you.
That's a key a point right now. Again, why we're going to hammer a little bit on this is because it's about the mindset. Can you get into the mindset? You're not making it for you. I told somebody the other day, hey, look, you're not making this for your pockets, right? Because your pockets, are like, hey, I'm cost conservative. I'm not buying that. But what does your customer need? What does your customer want? And how can you now start demonstrating this? Now, this is what we'll probably put in the checklist as we go a little bit further in this is, what are some of the ways to find out how to? Now, we want to make a little bit of what we're talking about how-tos, right? We've given you the math, 10 at 100 people, 100 at 10 people, or just pop it out at $1,000 and just find one.
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's amazing how when you do this math and you break this math down, how you can start seeing it. But if your mind is still saying, yeah, but it's got to be perfect, it's got to be perfect. Perfection is how I like to say fear is one of fear's allies.
Mm-hmm.
It's that
Mm-hmm.
procrastination because fear says, we don't really want to put ourselves out there. We
Mm-hmm.
don't really want to do this because it may look badly upon blah, blah, blah. Right. And we hear it all the time from our entrepreneurs. And I just kind of sit there and I nod my head. I go, okay. I tell you
Mm-hmm.
what, by the end of the day, by the end of our time together, let's create something.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And they'll tell you, a lot of the entrepreneurs will tell you, oh, he may not let you go until you create one small part,
There you go.
one little thing that you can now start putting out there. I was looking at a guy that this guy that has a podcast now, and I remember when he said to me, I want to start a podcast. I says, let's do it right now. He's like,
Yep.
what do you mean? I says, give me your phone. And literally I said, give me your phone. I gave him a couple of kind of prompts, and I says, okay, go. All right,
Mm-hmm.
hey, my name is, I want to start this podcast. What is the podcast going to be about? Right. So
Mm-hmm.
I kind of helped him along. What is the
Yep.
podcast going to be about?
Yep.
Oh, well, we're going to talk about this. I said, well, who might want to listen to that? Well, I think anybody who. So all I did in a couple of steps was
Mm-hmm.
get him rolling,
Exactly.
get him confidence.
And I
Right
think
now, he's got like 10,000 followers like that because he
exactly
started.
started. Yeah, no, that's such an important point. And I think that, a lot of times the entrepreneurial conversation hangs out up here in the highbrow space, right? And
Mhm.
I want to reach out and I want to talk for a second to those people who are beginning their entrepreneurial journey. And a lot of the stuff that we're talking about seems just like way outside of your comfort zone. I want you to know that there are steps, there are things that you need to do. And that's why we started off with mindset. There are things that you can do, and there are books that you can read, and there are things that you can do to get yourself into the space where this stuff sounds easy, sounds comfortable, sounds okay. There's a book that is one of my favorites, and Randy, you and I've talked about it before. Robert Kiyosaki, who
Mhm.
is one of the main reasons why I'm in business, one of the main reasons why I went to the Marine Corps in order to learn how to be a leader, in order to serve my country, right? Robert Kiyosaki is the guy that wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad, but the book
Mhm.
that I feel like changed my life in the way that I thought about money, the way that I thought about business, the way that I thought about everything, is a book that he wrote called Cash Flow Quadrant. And in that book, he talks about, how do you make your money? And there's 4 different ways to make your money. You can be an entrepreneur. I mean, you can be an employee working for somebody else. You can be a solopreneur or a small business owner where you really have a job, but you get paid better than you get paid working for somebody else, right? You can be a big business owner and you can be an investor. And one of the things that he talked about that's necessary for people to be able to move from the space of just being a solopreneur and kind of having a job working for yourself to the space of being a big business owner and an investor, which a big business owner, somebody owns a system, right? Is he said that there were 3 main steps. And what was so crazy, and the reason I want to tell this story is twofold. Number one, the steps in and of themselves are amazing. And I want to kind of get some of your ideas about the steps, Randy. But I also want to talk to the listeners about, how each of the steps will affect you differently at different parts of your life.
Sure, sure.
So the 3 main steps that he talked about are: number one, get a mentor, right?
Mm.
Find somebody who's done what you're trying to do and get them to walk alongside of you. That thing that you were able to do with helping that young man to get everything started, that's
Right.
exactly the power of a mentor. You were able to see, he said he wanted to go here. All right, I can help you get here. Let's make it happen. And it exponentially increases the speed at which you can, right, traverse that learning curve, the speed
Sure.
at which
Yeah.
you can go from being completely uncomfortable to feeling like this is normal, right? It's just like learning how to ride a bike. If you had to learn how to ride a bike by yourself, you did a lot of falling and a lot of wobbling and a lot of figuring this out. And it probably took you a very long time. Whereas most people who learn how to ride a bike, when you have somebody there with you, you can get it done in about a day, right? Like that's the difference in that space.
It's a question
So
of time
exactly.
as
So
well.
step one is getting a mentor. Step two is getting some sort of work in sales where you are getting trained in sales, right?
Mhm.
Robert Kiyosaki talks about, how he went and worked at Xerox Corporation because they had one of the best sales training programs in the country. And that was what allowed him to then, go and become an entrepreneur and build $1 million company back in the 80s. So that's like a $3-5 million company today, right? Um, and sales training is so important. And it doesn't have to be, and this is the beauty of it, you don't have to be selling your products in order to get this sales training, right? One of the things and Randy, you are a master at this. Affiliate marketing is a great way for you to get into the sales and marketing game without having to do the risk of having to come up with an idea all upon your own, or the marketing materials, or any of that. All you have to really do is learn how to drive traffic to something somebody else has already built. And that
Correct.
helps you to get over that hump of knowing that you can sell, because knowing that you can sell is a really important mental piece, right, of being an entrepreneur. There's no way that I would have been able to start a six-figure business where all of the sales come from me doing work had I not started other smaller businesses in the network marketing and the franchising space before that.
Yeah.
But with that benefit, right, with that understanding, having sold multiple things, I knew that I could go sell me and what I do, even if it was going to take me a while, even if I knew that eventually I would get to the point where it was taking off. And now, it took us 3 years, but before year 3, we were a 6-figure business.
So I love it. I say this, I say, go sell the Cutco knives, right? It's like, what? Remember those Cutco knives? Go because you want to get out there and get the experience of being told no, and
yes.
then developing the resilience to go, yeah, but I got to eat. So I'm going to continue on. This is something from my book that I wrote like a long time ago. My acupuncturist, now I got an acupuncturist, right? And she says, I read your book all the time. She said, I'm just constantly reading your book. And I was thinking, well, tell me what specifically. She says, this is one chapter, right? And this is from that old school. I'm going to be redoing this, by the way, everybody, because the old cover and all that kind of stuff and new information. But man, it's been evergreen, right? It's just been continuing on. And I said in it, says, are you mad enough to make some money? Right. And then I get into, the thing about anger, right? Are you mad enough to use the power of being told no because you've been out there selling them Cutco knives or whatever it is, right? Cutco, please don't make a call to me. We're saying in a positive way. You are training people to do well, right?
Exactly.
So to get out there and get your rejections, get that kind of stuff under your belt, understanding how to be resilient, how to keep going, and how to go, you know what? I'm angry enough at being told no that I'll get better. And that may lead you to that mentorship. What you're listening to today is a mentorship. Why the two business guys get together and mastermind on things is because it's your mentorship. Take this 40 minutes, take that 50 minutes, an hour, however, and start saying, that is what I needed today to invigorate me to go out there and make some money. And then you can develop your steps. You can start saying, okay, I can apply this. It doesn't matter if you're in the MLM space, if you're in whatever space,
that's
can
the
you
third
develop
step.
that? Yeah. And that's what Kiyosaki is talking about there is when you get that mentor, like what we're doing right now. And when we suggest to you, go get the checklist, the Pathway to Profits checklist, or whatever we want to call it.
Yeah.
We're saying, get the mentorship.
Exactly.
Right. You'll spend, here's one thing that I was listening to a guy the other day, and man, it just hit me like a ton of bricks because I got a lot of degrees. Is he says, you'll spend years and years in school with no actual pathway to profits. You'll spend this time with the hope that you then go out and get the job to pay it back, right?
Exactly.
Or you'll spend that time and nothing will come out of it. But yet you won't go get a mentor.
Exactly.
That
and
takes
people
you
look at it
4 years to 4 months or 4 weeks.
Exactly. And the crazy thing about it is, right? Like, because I know a lot of people.
I'm getting mentors left and right, by the way.
Always, right? And because people talk about network marketing and one of the interesting things that I've always heard is, well, that's a pyramid scheme, that's a this, that's a that. And don't get me wrong, there are some network marketing schemes out there. All of them are not created equally, right?
Correct.
one of the things you want to be able to look at in each of these three, when you're looking at getting a mentor, when you're looking at working in sales, when you're looking at network marketing, you don't want to find just anybody. You want to find organizations that are actually doing it, not the glitz and the glam because they got great marketing materials, but they've actually been doing this, right? Selling. You use Cutco knives. One of the big things about Cutco knives is that they sell year
And
after year after year after year, and it's still around. That's what I'm saying. Like you don't have to go and find a company that is a startup, right? That's not what you're trying to do. You're not trying to get in on the ground floor of something that's going, because the ground floor is the hardest floor for it to get moving. Get on in that company that's only paying you 20% commissions instead of the one that's willing to give you 75% commissions because they're not sure if it's going to sell either, right? Like the big thing that you want to look at is a proven track record with coaches, with mentors, with network marketing ventures. There are some network marketing companies that have been in existence for 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, and their direct distribution network marketing model has been tested and tried and true. There are millionaires that have been made through those models.
Right.
Tell me that there's not something you can learn from those people to get you to that first step. Because remember, this is the preparation for you to then go build your own. This is your school, right? This is your degree. This is that time that you're putting in, recognizing where you are on the spectrum. Now, if you have this, right? Again, remember, when we started this off, I'm not talking to those people that have already run their own business, that have already put out ideas, that have already done that. No, right now I'm talking to you, beginning entrepreneur who's working a job and like, I know that I can do better. I want to work for myself. I want to build something. Understand there's a skill set that you need that has nothing to do with your idea. It has to do with how you're going to get your idea to the marketplace. And if you don't develop that skill set, your idea, how awesome it is, does not matter.
You hear now, y'all heard that now. I didn't say it to you this time, because I'm usually the one that's like dropping the hammer down. And distribution. Here's the idea. That's fine. Here's the market. Oh, okay. So we kind of got some ideas. I kind of think this market wants this idea. All right. How are you going to get it to them? Exactly. How are you going to excite them? How are you going to first get them to notice you? Exactly. That's your marketing. And then how are you going to get them to say yes? That's your sales. Exactly. And if you've got some experience, you've gone out there, you've gone out and sold your NSA water filters, because that's what it was for me back in the day. NSA water filters. Water filters are still around. Right? Al Williams, remember him? You know, that turned in, I think, Primerica. Primerica, right? Exactly. So Al Williams was like a long time ago. Yeah, and I remember him getting back in the 70s and talking about, I barely remember that because I'm not that old. But anyway, but I remember him getting on, and as a kid, hearing him talk about, you gotta try, right? And get out there and do. And now, all these years later, company is still around. It's right, Primerica is traded on the New York on the NASDAQ. Right. And now I get it. We're not saying one over the other. That's not what this conversation is about. It is about finding the tool that gets you the talent. In other words, that it hones your talent, that gets you the ideal of where you like to be, or it gives you some information that says, I'd rather be behind the scenes. Let me go get a sales team. Right. Whatever it is that gets you there faster. And it allows you and leverage it. And because remember, we're talking about mindset. It allows you to understand the difference between your idea not being good and your distribution not being good. I want us to look at it from a perspective of what we know in the regular world. Like, let's take the music industry. For years and years and years, ever since Ray Charles went and asked for his masters, everyone in the country has known that the music industry has not been treating artists appropriately, quote unquote. And I'm putting this in air quotes for one main reason. A lot of times people like to act as if they are getting a bad deal, and the reason and the fact that they're getting a bad deal is on the fault of the other person. Mm-hmm. These artists ain't going in there without lawyers. These artists ain't going in there without somebody. And even if they're going in there without lawyers, they're reading the contract. Mm-hmm. But the key thing that everybody needs to understand is this. When you're just an artist, when you're just talent, just like what Randy just said, you don't have distribution. And so you have a ceiling
on what you can make, which is local shows that are willing to come and pay you, and local CD distribution if you're making your mixtape, or if you're making your demo, or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
And their scope is limited. The reason they go to record companies is for distribution. Now, I want you to pay attention to the success stories that you've heard about with regards to these types of deals, right? There are a couple of people that have gotten amazing deals as far as in the record industry. And we know them, like you can count them out on, kind of 5 hands, right? Like you've got Michael Jackson, had an amazing deal.
Yeah, he's making like $2 or something per album sold.
Right. Crazy. And plus he had an 85-15 with royalties and everything else. The reason we know what that deal was is because his lawyer worked with Master P, and Master P went and got the same deal when he started his. Now, Jay-Z and Rockefeller, same thing, had amazing deal. If you look at oh man, name is escaping me right now. If you look at Drake, right? If you look at the people that are making very good money in the music game, you'll notice one of the common things, right? And with Dr. Dre and Aftermath, it was a similar thing, right? He put out 3 albums and he was a multiple millionaire, right? Like before he even did Beats by Dre and became a billionaire, Dre has literally put out 3 albums as an artist, right? Now, here's the interesting thing. The reason they were able to do that is because they understood the power of distribution, but they also understood how to do it themselves. And so they were not using the record company as their Hail Mary. They were not using the record company as the only way they could get there. They were negotiating with the record company from a position of strength because they knew how to go sell. They knew how to. Master P had already sold 500,000 copies of his album out of the trunk of his car before he went to the record label.
So that puts him in a different power position too, doesn't it?
Exactly. Because he's not going to the record label saying, I need money so that I can eat, so that I can take care of my family. No, he's going to the record label saying, hey, I'm hot. Do you want to jump on this and do a joint venture with me? Do you want to be a partner in this enterprise so that we can use your distribution networks to get this to a lot of people? Because I already got buzz over here. So you can jump on, or I can talk to one of the other companies that are out here. You let me know, right? It's a different negotiation place. And the reason and to tie that in, right, they learned how to distribute their own things. They learned how to build their own buzz. They learned how to sell and market. And because they had that skill, they didn't have to just accept what somebody was willing to give them. They could understand the value of what they had. And that is the key thing that you learn when you have a mentor, when you go into a sales organization or into a network marketing organization, where you learn the difference between the product and the sales and marketing.
Y'all hear it, right? Learn how to sell. So you come in with a different power situation, right? It's like if you're going to a company, okay, we're not afraid to work. We work, right? We do some things, right? Some people send us a check and then we have our own different things because it's just a part of the streams.
Exactly.
So it's a different situation when you go into a company and you've done a couple of things, right? And you have understanding of how the widgets are made and an appreciation for the entrepreneur that started it. It puts you in a whole different position to ask for the money you think you deserve, right? Hey, I understand that you put up all the time, the energy, the sweat and tears, the time away from family and all this kind of stuff. But let me tell you how I'm going to help graduate your idea, right? Because you've done it before, maybe in your own business. So this is the entrepreneur now going into a workplace to say, hey, listen, let me do this one piece for you. I come in as a contractor. You don't have to pay me insurance. So just put it in the amount of our contract. Yep. You negotiate differently.
Yes.
When you had some sales and some understanding of how to get your own product sold, right? Imagine that, Rob. Somebody goes into a company after having run, and we've seen it. I've got friends that remember back when it was kind of lean out there, right? And they had to go into the company. I call it coming in from the entrepreneurial rain. Yeah. Right. They were like, look, it's raining out here. This is bad news. And they had to come into working for a company. Now, a lot of companies don't like to work with entrepreneurs because we come in with a different mindset.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some people come in with the, well, we've got to make that 17th widget before we make the 700. We'd say, well, how do we get to 700 faster? And the process the entrepreneurs may think of is not what the business owner or the system allows. But anyway, but when you can come in and get them excited about having done this before, that's what I hear a lot. If you can help me do this thing faster, right? And I got a little note up here to myself. It's like, can you help me do it faster, better, and with less effort?
Less effort. Yeah.
And that's what I sell. Faster, better, with less effort.
There you go.
Why? Because of experiences that I can bring to the table that says, oh, we can skip this because there's a distribution market here. Or what you've been doing here is not keyword searched out.
Exactly.
So why are we talking about that or doing that, selling to this market when here's an ancillary or adjacent market?
Yes.
Just waiting for your solution, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Right. And it's amazing when as I think about something Charlie Munger said, I gotta get him in here, guys. He's one of the richest guys out there, working over there with
Warren Buffett's right hand man
at Berkshire Hathaway. Right. He says, do everything you can to get to $100,000. He says, I don't care if you got to use coupons when you go out to eat. Now we're just talking about do everything you can to get to that $1,000.
Exactly.
So it validates the idea. So you learn, am I going to do it at 10 or 100 to 10 people, right? So we're talking about $10 selling to 100 people, $100 selling to 10, or am I going to do it at the $1,000 price point to one person? So that you understand, what is the market telling you? What is the information they're getting? Long before you start running the ads and all the fancy stuff, right? Let's get some money in your pocket. Do it before you spend a lot of money in other areas.
Yes. And realize that I love the math on that is so powerful, right? If you can sell something for $100 to 10 people, it's actually not that difficult to sell it for $1,000 to one person, especially if you're practicing making sure that you give more value than you extract, right? It's so important. One of the things that I always try to do with anything that I put out, I try to make sure that my clients are getting 10x whatever they're paying me, right? So if you're paying me, and this is the reason why, like I said, I started the program and it was $100 that I sold it for. I sold it 34 times. That's $3,400, right? Now, here's the interesting thing. Selling it 34 times was not an easy feat, but what it allowed me to do is now I've got $3,400 to build out the rest of the program, do all the rest of this type of stuff, to do marketing, to do those other things. But here's what I knew. There was more than just 10 times the value in that, because I was building the program on an idea of eventually charging $5,000 for it. Right. And I was putting in enough value so that people would get $50,000 worth of value out of this program. Now, it's not all complete. So I didn't have it all the way set up so it was $50,000 worth of value, but I had it definitely set up so it was $20,000 or $30,000 worth of value right off the bat. So now when I went and made a 10x jump from $100 to $1,000, I can still sell the product, but now I've only got to sell one to make the exact same amount of money I was making when I was selling 10 before. And my clients are still getting 10 times that $1,000 worth of value and some.
And it's something about the price point too, right? And I remember when I raised my per hour prices. Now, here's the exchange for money, time for money kind of a thing. And I try to work away from that, but still, when I was like $150 an hour, and I said, I started presenting stuff at $651 an hour. Now, where's 651? I did some math, right? I said, well, if I want to make, $1 million a year, right? And I'm still headed there, y'all. So I'm on my climb. So
there we go.
Don't be judging me. I'm on my climb. I ain't there yet, right? So this is showing the receipts, right? So I says, all right, so I can do it at $150 an hour, and it's going to take me a long time, right? And I says, start doing some math, right? I says, okay, I'd love to take a month off a year. So I think the math comes out to, if you work 40 hours a week, 2,080 hours times 52 weeks, 40 hours times 52 weeks. Or if I says, well, I'd like to take a month off. So that's going to be about 1,900 and some hours, right? You guys do the math on that. And I thought, well, what will it take per hour for me to get to that point that I would like to get to. And it came out to $651 an hour. And I says, well, I'm going to start charging that. Right. And then, just for a select few, I call it the friends and family rate. Will I do something for $150? But my point is this. What I ended up doing was saying, okay, let me go out here and put this price point out there and let me show you how I'm going to get you there faster, how that's going to, increase your profits 30 to 50%, you know what I mean? Get you some very quick wins, all these different things, like you're talking about the 10X value, right? And then now when I can remember the first time I got that price, man. And the guy says, so that's about $1,000 an hour. I said, well, it's actually $651 an hour. And they did not blink.
Exactly.
That taught me a story. Who I was selling to matters.
Exactly.
But doesn't that go back to sales?
And the value that you are bringing to the table. Right. The biggest thing to understand is somebody who's going to buy a Mercedes-Benz is not going to be shopping at a Honda dealership. It's just not the same person, right? Honda, your top of the line Accord is going to cost you $40,000, $50,000. That's your starting price for your Mercedes-Benz.
Right.
Right. So you got different people that are shopping and want different things. And you've got to understand that. And that's again, when we talk about learning sales, when we talk about all those other types of things, that's what happens. And so often, this goes back to the mindset. As an entrepreneur, you've got to realize that your development has to take place. You may not be ready to start selling to these people. I remember when I was in graduate school, I was getting my master's degree. When I was in undergrad and graduate school, I always had a job at a restaurant somewhere because I was always making sure I was eating during the day without having to dip into my pocket. Right. That was part of my number one frugality. Right. That was my strategy. So I worked at this restaurant. It was a great, Americana type style restaurant. Mid-scale, not upper scale, not, Ruth's Chris or anything like that, but they sold salads for, $12, $13. And this is back in the early 2000s. Right. And so they were not hurting, right? And so you made pretty good tips, and it was a really decent business. But one of the things that was interesting was they had a training program, and here's how the training program started. There's certain areas of the restaurant where certain customers get sat, right? Generally, your bar is the place where your most transient and the people that don't really come for an experience and all the rest of that that's where they are. And the people who are your regulars sit at the bar tops, which are taken care of by the bartender. And then there's the extra tables that are around the bar, right? And there's a couple other sections, and these are the overflow sections. These are the sections where when everything else is full, this is where they begin to sit people. And when you start to work there as a server, you have to work your way up the chart, right? And the reason you have to work your way up the chart is because you have to learn the restaurant and learn problem solving within the confines of the restaurant and how we do things before they're going to put you in front of their most important customers, the ones right that you in the top 3 spots. There's 3 tables with 6 seats at the table, and then another couple of 4-seating tables, right? So these are the tables where you're going to get big groups, where you're going to get big parties, where you're going to have to be doing lots of problem solving. And so the way that they train is that you have to do your time learning the menu, taking care of customers, making money, getting good reviews in these small spaces, not because you're not capable of working in those upper spaces, but there's just an understanding that there's a learning curve. There's certain things that you have to learn along the journey before you're ready to do those tables. Now, here's the thing. When you're in training, they have you train on the big tables. So you don't make it through training without having taken care of a big table. Yeah. It's not the point that you can't take care of the big table, but you train with somebody there behind you. So they're filling in the gaps for you when you're taking on the big table. But here's the key. When they put you on your own, they start you back lower down on the chart so that you can start taking your lumps in places that won't have as dramatic of an impact to you or to the restaurant.
That's right. I love that.
And so many people, when you're making this transition, I want you to understand, you've gone from working a job, being with somebody else, and now the point that we're talking about is go get some mentorship, work on those big tables with people who are seasoned, who can fill in the gaps for you, because there is going to come a time when you're going to then go back and try to start your own thing. And then you've got to start with those small bits, growing, so that you can build yourself back up to where your competency is, but your knowledge base and your skill set may not be where your intellectual competency is.
It becomes the 10,000 hour rule all over again. Now, I can tell you, when I had originally started my business, right, I said, how can I get my 10,000 hours faster?
Yeah.
That's when I just started cranking out, and I had to apply the, it's not ready, but it's done.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
A rule, right? And it's done is better than
perfect.
Perfect approach, right? So I says, what now I look back at some of the stuff that I created, and it's like, oh man, that's embarrassing, right? Or oh my gosh, it's like when we're in school, right? We're like, oh my gosh, that freshman paper is going to look a whole lot different than that, grad level paper, right?
Exactly.
But the point is, and to your point, it's the practice.
Yes.
Right? What am I practicing on? And then how can I now, because you're smarter, just like I was telling you about this book, right? The 2012 written book that just has still some evergreen stuff in there. Now I can repurpose it.
Yep.
And we can bring it up to a whole different level, right?
Yep.
Put a new cover on it, add some chapters, and then it's, Reluctant Entrepreneur, finds success. Reluctant Entrepreneur does this, this, and this. That same title then can be repurposed in so many different ways, right? I had one idea that I was going to call it the Reluctant Entrepreneur Gets a Job, because a lot of my friends in the entrepreneurship space were getting jobs.
Yeah.
They were coming in from the entrepreneurial reign, but that's okay. That's what you can do when you create one thing that's not perfect. I can still, I read back and I go, oh my gosh, I should not have put that paragraph together. Or that I think was missing an S or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So we want to encourage you to literally get out there and start working toward that first $1,000. And get this, everyone. If you're at a higher level, it's metaphorical. Let's get, if you're okay, I've made 1,000. Okay, what about that 10? Let's add a 0. Let's add another 0. And that's when we talk about the pathway to profits.
Exactly.
Is what you're doing now. And the things that if Rob and I came in and was helping you, with it, how we can help you see a little different thing.
Exactly.
Right?
And realize that it's a continuing journey, right? Like I love that point that you just made, right? Whether it's $10, whether it's $100, whether it's $1,000, right? Once you get to 6 figures, right? I've made $100,000 selling in my business. Now I'm trying to make $1 million, right? That's the journey that we're on now. It's ever expanding. When I get to $1 million, I'm gonna try to make 10 million. When I get to 10 million, I'm gonna try to make 100 million. Like, it's never going to stop. But the interesting thing about it is, this is like the fundamentals in basketball or in sports. There's certain things that you just got to keep doing over and over and over and over and over again, because they're the fundamentals for a reason. And these that Randy and I have been talking about are those fundamentals. Understand sales, marketing, distribution.
I can tell you, and I took Wing Chun for a while, Kung Fu, right? And let me tell you what, it used to drive me nuts when we had to do these blocks over and over and over again, and I was like, why are we doing this? And then, of course, you see Karate Kid, and you go, oh, wax on. I get it. It's the practice. It's the motion, so that when you do the move, it's not extra.
Exactly.
It's something that your mind and body is trained to do. It's what we're talking about, right? It's what Kiyosaki was talking about. Get some sales experience. You want to expand it and go faster? Okay. Hey, karate instructor, could you work with me one-on-one?
Yes.
Now, boom, you're going to go through, because he's going to go, okay, I know we can do this because that's what we do in class, and we have to make sure everybody gets their turn. But let me show you. Let me show you another move, right?
Exactly.
And that becomes the power, and why we want to come on and mastermind on this particular subject, because we see a lot of the entrepreneurs out there right now that are starting off and they just don't have a pathway. They can't see it. They know they have a desire. They know that there's some customers out there, but then it's that middle part where they're going, well, I don't know what to do next. Right? And this is one of the key things that I'm finding when I'm working with entrepreneurs. They don't know what to do next. So I say, you know what? Can I mastermind on this first? Right? And you guys, if you're seeing some of my stuff, you see my process is like, let me talk about it. Because I think it's an ideal. I just want to flesh it out. Right? I want you guys to go out there and throw arrows in it. And then I say, okay, can I not only talk about it, the blog approach or the vlog approach, what we're doing right now, right, in the podcast, And then can I create a book from that?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's like the book sometimes comes first, or a blog comes first. People like the blog. I says, well, I may be able to expand that. Then a book comes, and then I go, well, hey, wait a minute. Is it possible to make a business out of this?
Mm-hmm.
So right now, think about that. Now there's 3 B's, right? The book, the blog, the business.
I
Or
like
the
it.
blog, the book, the business. It's
Mm-hmm.
the simplicity in that. It's a nothing. It doesn't take much to do the blog to
Mm-hmm.
kind of get interest, right? Then someone says, hey, so many people says, we really dug this section or that part of it, or this really inspired me. Let me expand that thinking. And then you got a book. So what you're also seeing is that now you got one stream here, another stream
Mm-hmm.
here, and then you say, well, what can I productize from what I talked about and wrote about?
Yes.
Right. And now we also know that just showing you guys a little bit of the pathways, what you'll get if we pop out this checklist. We don't know if we're going to do it yet because we're some busy people, but we're thinking that maybe we will. And you want the checklist, we'll give you a link to go get it.
Yeah.
But
So,
think about this.
and if you want the checklist, let me jump in real quick.
Mm-hmm.
If you want the checklist, put it in the comments that you want us to put a checklist out so we can make sure that we do that.
That's right. That's right. See now, see how what we're doing is basically saying we haven't done it yet, because then that's time, right? $651 an hour or 150 for friends and family. Don't be calling me trying to get to friends and family rate, and I never met you. But you see what's happening. And then now we have that last one, that business. But what it also does is show you the leverageability at each level. You're going to make so much from the book. You're going to make so much if you do the blog, right? From the blog, if you pass some affiliate stuff in there or whatever. But then the business is the systemization, the productizing, right, of those other ideas that you just started as a doing.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't know what you were getting into at first, and expanded it, and then took it to the marketplace and says, would you guys be interested in the business part of this? Yes. And then we can get smaller after that.
And then we can go
in all digitize it after that. So that's how you get to the bigs.
So do this really quickly for the listeners, because I know that we've been pontificating, we've been talking a lot, and you're really good at summarizing and putting things together into smaller quantities. Talk to them really quickly about kind of take this conversation that we just had and encapsulate it for them. What are the most important things that they need to take away from this mastermind that we just had today?
All right. So here's the key, guys, is that you have to start in that small area to get to your first 1,000, right? Now I sent something over to Rob the other day. I says, hey, let's get to this with this beginning. Let's get to this level. He says, well, let's make it a little smaller. Let's get here first. We got to kind of pass here to get to here. So first things first, make it as small as possible, the steps to get to it, the pathway, right? If you can do a mentorship via like what we're doing in this podcast, listen to what we're talking about. That becomes your mentorship until you can get some money to pay for another one, right? So that's step 2. Get that mentor to show you how. Get some sales and distribution experience. I don't care if you're selling somebody else's stuff, your Cutco knives, NSA water, which it's not around anymore, but anyway, water filters, whatever it is that allows you to get the practice in, to get the rejection in, to get the resilience in. You do those 3 things, and then we'll be able to expand it in other areas when we start talking about funnels, when we start talking about running ads. So get those 3 steps in, everyone, and that'll lead you to, now with the goal in mind, right? Like Rob talks about in his book, the smarter goal, right? With in mind, I know if I get to this 1,000, I have achieved a small something that I can say, hey, here's the measuring stick, not just the motion, not just the action, but it actually made me some money. And then I think once you do that, you can then start 10xing it.
That's awesome.
10,000, get to 100,000.
So what I heard you say, I wrote down 4 steps that you just gave them. Number 1, start with small, attainable, SMART goal.
Yep.
Number 2, get you a mentor to help you to achieve that goal even faster.
Yeah.
Number 3, get out into the marketplace and develop your sales muscles.
Yes.
Your resiliency, your rejection proofing, right?
I know that's right. You gotta have that.
And once you have accomplished your goals, your SMART goals, then you can look to scale.
That's it. That's it.
That's
4
powerful,
steps,
brother.
right? Breaking it down. And with, just a couple of minutes that that we have left, Rob always likes to leave us anytime we have a conversation. You leave you better leaving than when you came. So Rob, what can we say that leaves them better than when they came?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing, and I talk to all the Spring GR entrepreneurs about this so often. Remember that this game is a marathon; it's not a sprint. So many times we get into it, we get in our own heads and we think that, maybe I'm not cut out for this. And you might not be cut out for it right now, but that doesn't mean you can't build yourself into being cut out for it. And don't ever think that anybody started the entrepreneurial game at the top of the game. Nobody has. Everybody had to go through these 4 steps that Randy just laid out for you, right? Everybody's had to go through that. So realize it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And remember that the race is not given to the strong, nor to the young, right? But it's given, or nor to the swift, but it's given to the person that endures to the end. You got to make it to the end of the race to win. So it's more about you being able to endure, you being able to get back up, to dust yourself off. That's why you have to build that resiliency. Don't quit. If you never quit, you will get there.
You heard it. You got some steps, you've got some motivation, you've got some inspiration, and we've given you some how-tos. Look out for the checklist, everyone. Tell us in the comments if you want that thing and what you would want to have on your checklist that would help you get to your next thing. And we'll go ahead and add that in there. We appreciate Rob coming on today. I get up early anyway, so I know it's a little extra for him. Right?
Oh, whatever.
You guys can, find us. We're going to leave enough links in to be able to find our material, our stuff. You can Google us, whatever you want to do. And just get into what we're talking about here, right? Share it with some friends, do some highlights, send us some information or questions that you have, and we'll put together shows. We'll mastermind on stuff that you send us.
Yeah, definitely. Put in the comments the next thing you want us to talk about. And for those of you all that we would talk to now, I know we spent a lot of time talking to the beginning entrepreneurs today. For those of you all that are a little bit further along and you know that you're at that mentorship stage, you just want to be able to kind of chop up your idea and get some information, reach out to us. You've got the links down below. Randy and I will reach back out to you. We'll figure out a way to do some way to work with you and a way to make that happen.
All right, everybody. Thank you again for coming in. Rob, thank you again for, getting up early and doing this with us. I'll see you next week, brother.
You know what we say in the Marine Corps, we get more done by 9 a.m. than most people get done in their whole day.
Just saying. All right, we'll see you guys. Thanks
Take
again,
it easy,
brother.
everybody. Yeah.